Now we want to continue to make our financials look more reasonable, more realistic, by adding accounts receivable. We're going to add accounts receivable. Right, this is the first of our tables that we're going to add, and this will not be the last. It's very important to understand what we're going to do here. One adjustment to the last worksheet we put together, this 20,000 that was other expenses should be 30,000. So here's a lesson in how any number works. I can put any number in here and it will work. So I have 20,000 in there now. I really wanted to have 30,000, so I will type in minus 30,000, and you can see that everything remains balanced, and we just have a different number in there. I can just now drag this across, and now I'll have 30,000 for that expense. Okay, so that's just a small adjustment that we need to make in this spreadsheet. Now, what I would suggest that we do is to keep each spreadsheet on a separate worksheet, right? So that we can always go back and refer to it, because we're going to add to each one, so we can go back and look at the original and it'll still be like it was when we started. The way to do that is we need to copy everything that's on this sheet to a blank worksheet. Okay, so we have this. Ignore these tabs. This is from something else. Don't worry about it. Something you don't have at the moment. We want to copy everything that's on this sheet to this sheet, this blank sheet. Okay, the way that's done is we go back to the sheet we want to copy. We go to the intersection of the rows and the columns there on the upper left, click, and everything is highlighted. Then we do Control C. Control C, we see the little, I call them bees running around. Then we go to the sheet that we want to copy this to. We go up to the intersection again, do Control V, V as in Victor, and the items are pasted to this new spreadsheet. And you can go back to the original, hit escape, and now we go to the sheet that we're working on, sheet 2 in this case. And now this is what we're working on. This is the sheet that we're working on. And now the other sheet that we had will now remain that way, and will remain as a reference. It will not change at all right, but we will change this. All right, we have to go and freeze the panes, and that happens if we go to the view menu and we go to freeze panes. Okay, freezing panes is very important in these big spreadsheets. Okay, so now we're ready to go. We want to add receivables. One of the things that I like to do is to show the place where the financial statements end and these tables begin. These are not financial statements that we're putting in. We're going to put in tables. So I put in an area of all black as a marker. Then I know that everything that's below this line is a table. All right, so now we're going to start on accounts receivable, and we start with putting labels in, and we name this table accounts receivable. Okay, and then all the tables that we will be doing basically will be the same. They will have the same structure, and just different words, but the same structures. So we start with the beginning balance. The next line is items that make the balance or the account get larger. And for accounts receivable, that is sales. The next line will be items that make the balance get smaller, which would be cash collected. Okay. Now, if we want to have receivables, we can't have all of the cash collected in the month of sale, because otherwise we will not have receivables. So we have to have a portion of it collected in the month of sale, and then another portion of it collected in the month after sale. So we're assuming that it would take us 2 months to collect our receivables. All right, so this is cash collected in the month of sale, month after sale. Now, how is this going to happen? Well, we need to put in a set of factors that will determine how our receivables are collected. And for purposes of this demonstration and for what we're putting together, we will assume that 70%, 0.7, will be collected in the first month. Now, why did it not come out as 0.7? Well, that's just about formatting. So we need to put decimal points in. You know, sometimes you guys will go crazy because you'll say, I put 0.7 in 1,000 times and it keeps coming up 1. Well, remember, you need to add decimals. So this 0.7 is a variable. We want to paint that green. And we also want to make sure that the other factor, obviously, if all of our receivables get collected in 2 months, obviously this other factor is 0.3. But we want to make sure that the total this month and the second month never exceed 100%. You can't collect more than 100% of what you're owed. So we do that by just putting in a little formula, which will be equal 1 minus 0.70. And we need to put in decimals there, and that'll be 0.3. So what we're saying here is that if I change this 0.70 to 0.90, then that'll turn and change to 0.1. Right? So that we want the sum of this never to exceed 100%. Right? So we can make Excel do what we want it to do. All right, so let's get started putting this together. Well, let's finish up our rows. The total of those 2 months, month of sale, month after sale, is total cash collected. And then the last line is ending balance. Okay, we start with a beginning balance, sales, cash collected, and the detail of the cash collected, total cash collected, and then ending balance. All right, so let's start putting this together now. We're in month 1. Day 1, there was no activity at all. We're in month 1. Beginning balance in month 1 is 0. Beginning balance in month 1, remember, is September 2nd. So the beginning balance always equals the ending balance. So if we get this to work from the beginning, we will be in good shape. So let's make this equal to that. And even though there's nothing there, we will have it working properly in the preceding or the following columns. Sales. Where's that number come from? Well, that's the sales that we made in the first month. and that will equal, we tie that to this number. Okay? Now, here's the line cash collected. This is just a title line, so there's nothing that goes there. This number will be cash collected. These will be negative numbers. So we want this number to equal, this is what's making this get smaller. This will equal to that number, and we want to do F4 because it's going to remain in that column, times this amount, 150,000. Oops, that should have been negative. I keep saying it's going to be negative, and then I never make it negative. $105. Okay. In this column, this row, this is cash collected from sales in the previous month, but there were no sales in the previous month. Understand what we're doing here. This 105 represents what we've sold in this month. This row represents what we collect from sales from the previous month. We had no sales in the previous month, so that will be 0. But let's get a formula working. That number will be 30% of whatever those sales would be. So the formula would be just like this one, except it will be 30% times the sale in the preceding month. All right, so let's do that, and it'll be a negative number. Equal, let's remember to put the negative sign in, equal minus this number, F4, times sales in the preceding month. 0, which is what it should be. In the next months, it will not be 0. Okay. Total cash collected is the sum of these two rows. Total cash collected equals, you can point at them or you can do a sum. I'll do a sum, equals the sum of this and this. 105,000. Our ending balance, you have to be careful now, just make sure you do these sums correctly. The ending balance is equal to the beginning balance plus sales minus total cash collected. Beginning balance plus sales minus total cash collected. So it's equal to this plus that, and then minus this, but it's already negative, so we're adding this. 45,000. That's our ending balance. Okay. Now, if we've been good and put these formulas in correctly, we might be able to drag this from this point. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we can get this to work immediately. We drag this over. Wow, that looks great. The first indicator is this. This 45,000, that's what this is. That equals that. 175,000 are the sales from above. 122,500, that's the sales. That's 70% of that number. That's correct. This 45,000, that represents the remainder of the 150,000 that we sold in the first month. So there's 105, 45, 150. The total of those two is 167,500. Why does this keep happening? Total of those is 167,500. The ending balance is 52,500. So it looks like we are successful, and we can continue to drag this over the rest of the period. Okay. Any questions about that? I think I'm teaching in the classroom. Everybody okay? All right then. Now, we have the table. There are no summaries for the table. The tables are the tables. This is the easy part. Making the table is the easy part. The difficulties come when we try to integrate this into the financial statements. This ending balance is what goes into the financial statement. What we're saying is that this $45,000, this $52,500, these numbers are the balance in accounts receivable. Okay, so let's see if we can get those into the financial statements. Go up to the balance sheet. We need to have a row that says receivables. We do not have that. The place for it to be would be here. So we want to insert a row. Make sure you're putting in the entire row. Say OK. And that's going to be accounts receivable. Okay. So we have a row of accounts receivable. Here's where our first month's balance will go. So we're going to tie it to that table that we just constructed. So equal there's our balance, 45,000. Enter. And now we want to drag this across. Whenever we put something in, we want to make sure that we get it into the whole balance sheet. So we drag this across. Okay, now those of you who are paying attention should say, well, something looks like it went wrong because we didn't go out of balance. Okay. Well, the reason that we didn't go out of balance is because we are missing an amount. We're missing this 45,000. Right, so let's include that 45,000. Now it's gone bad. And let's drag this across. And there we have this red, like we should, because we added something to this portion of the balance sheet, so we should be out of balance. Now, the question is, why are we out of balance? Okay. Do I hear an answer? The answer is, well, because in our old system, we said that we were collecting $150,000 in cash from customers. Is that the amount that we have collected with receivables? No, not at all. Because if we look down at our table, the amount that we've collected from customers is $105,000. So we're off by that 45,000. So we need to change this amount to 105,000. Right? So we need to tie this to that 105. Make sure that it's a positive number. Make sure that it's a positive number. So we want to equal minus. Make sure you're taking it from the right place, which is total cash collected. That 105. Enter. The red here has gone away. The red here is showing up, and that'll be fine. We'll fix that too. And when we make those changes, we want to drag these things across so that we get all of the cash that's collected. So all of the red has gone away in the balance sheet. Okay. Everybody okay? It's 105. This now represents the amount of cash that we're collecting because we're not collecting all of it. selling a certain amount, but we have receivables now, so we do not get all of it at once. Right now, this has gone out of whack. Does anybody know why? Well, we have to analyze the receivables, just like we did with the inventory. We now have this receivable that has changed, and we're in the statement of cash flow indirect, which calls for analysis of our current assets. So we need to put a row in here that's going to take into consideration insert entire row, and this is going to be receivables and since they're assets, it's going to be the same way as inventory. An increase is going to be a use of cash, a decrease is going to be a source. This decrease, okay. And in the same way as we did with inventory, we can do the same with receivables. We want to show that change, which will equal, let's go back. We want to show that change, which will equal the difference between 1 month and the next month, and we want it to show up as a negative number. So we want to have the difference between this minus that showing up as that negative number. There's the 45, and the red has gone away, and we're going to drag this across. And the red has gone away from the cash flow statement. So I think we are complete. We are complete. We have the accounts receivable table, and we have financial statements that are balanced. We need to fix the summaries. Again, we have a hole in the summary. Just drag what's missing down. There's no hole there. This is okay. We're okay here. And we need to do one drag here. Okay. You need to look at these very carefully to make sure that you don't have holes in the summary. And we are complete. That's done it for accounts receivable. Okay. Thank you for your time.